Sometimes art becomes the only way an artist can deal with things that are almost impossible to put into words. Fear, pain, the fragile feeling that life can break at any moment. The canvas turns into a space where anxiety can spill out and where the darkest thoughts finally get a shape. For the artist, that can be a form of survival. But for the viewer, it can feel like a real emotional test. It's no coincidence that among the greatest masterpieces in art history, so many works disturb us, unsettle us, even shock us. These paintings don't try to be pleasant. They don't try to decorate your wall. They force you to feel. And that's exactly where their power lies. Today, we've put together a selection of paintings often called some of the most disturbing artworks in history. These are images that create discomfort, send chills down your spine, and stay in your memory for years. But behind every frightening image, there's a personal story. The artist's time, their trauma, their way of speaking about the world. One of the most striking figures in dark, surreal painting was Zdzisław Beksiński. Born in Poland in 1929 and trained as an architect, Beksiński seemed calm and even ironic in everyday life. He avoided publicity, refused to give titles to his paintings, and rarely dated them, as if deliberately leaving interpretation entirely up to the viewer. He was extremely self-critical. Some of his works, he destroyed himself, believing they weren't strong enough. And yet today, he is especially admired by fans of dark art and dystopian imagery. His canvases are filled with decay, death, distorted human figures, and yet they have a strange magnetism. You almost don't want to look, but you can't look away. Having lived through the horrors of World War II, Beksiński returned again and again to themes of destruction and mortality. His visual language even influenced pop culture. Many viewers notice parallels between his aesthetic and the biomechanical nightmares of Hans Rudi Giger, the artist behind the cinematic design of Alien. Tragically, Beksiński's own life ended violently. He was murdered. And that dark ending feels like an eerie reflection of the worlds he painted for decades. Another artist whose late works still disturb audiences is Francisco Goya. His painting, Two Old Women Eating Soup, creates an almost physical discomfort. We see two exhausted, distorted figures. It's hard to even tell at first who they are: women, men, or something ghost-like in between. This painting belongs to his famous black paintings, created in the final years of his life, when he covered the walls of his house, Quinta del Sordo, near Madrid. He never intended these works for public display. They were deeply personal, almost like a visual diary created in isolation. By that time, Goya had survived a severe illness that left him completely deaf. That loss deepened his sense of alienation. He had also witnessed the trauma of the Napoleonic invasion of Spain, public executions, and political repression. Events reflected in his print series, Los Caprichos, and The Disasters of War. As he aged, themes of madness, aging, fear, and death became more prominent. In Two Old Women Eating Soup, many art historians see an allegory of human decline, the body failing, the mind trembling before the unknown. These figures seem suspended between the world of the living and the world of shadows. Goya spent his final years in Bordeaux, France, having left Spain voluntarily, disappointed with the political situation. He died in 1828, leaving behind a legacy that bridges classical art and modern expression. His late works remain some of the most haunting images in European art history. When we talk about nightmare imagery in art, we can't ignore Hieronymus Bosch. The central panel of his triptych, The Temptation of St. Anthony, is packed with grotesque creatures, burning landscapes, collapsing structures, and surreal hybrid beings. Even in calmer scenes, Bosch creates tension. But when he tackles biblical temptation, it becomes a full visual nightmare. Living in the Netherlands in the 15th to 16th centuries, Bosch was a member of a religious brotherhood and deeply engaged with Christian concepts of sin and punishment. In his works, evil is never seductive. It's ugly, chaotic, frightening. And yet, in The Temptation of St. Anthony, the saint himself stands calm in the center, almost detached, a symbol of spiritual endurance amid madness. Bosch is often called a forerunner of surrealism. His bizarre combinations of humans, animals, and objects influenced many 20th century artists. And yet surprisingly little is known about his private life. Jumping centuries forward, we find American artist Bill Stoneham, whose painting The Hands Resist Him became an internet legend. The image shows a young boy with an unsettling, almost adult gaze, standing beside a doll in front of a glass door. Behind the glass, shadowy hands press outward. Stoneham, born in 1947, spent early childhood in foster care, an experience he said shaped his sense of isolation, something visible in his work. The boy in the painting is based on his own childhood photograph. He explained that the door represents the boundary between the real world and the dream world, and the doll acts as a guide between the two. In the early 2000s, the painting went viral after being listed online with a dramatic story claiming it was found in an attic and that the figures moved at night. Rumors spread quickly. Videos appeared. Paranormal theories exploded. Stoneham repeatedly denied all mystical claims. Still, even without the conspiracy theories, the atmosphere of the painting is undeniably tense. The child's gaze and the claustrophobic space create a psychological unease that viewers continue to discuss. No discussion of emotional intensity in art would be complete without Edvard Munch. Born in Norway in 1863, Munch experienced profound personal tragedy. His mother died when he was 5. A few years later, his beloved sister Sophie died of tuberculosis. Illness and death were part of his emotional world from childhood. Later, another sister was hospitalized for mental illness. These losses shaped his art deeply. He repeatedly returned to themes of dying children and grieving families. One of his most personal works was Death and the Child, which he painted in several versions. There's no sensationalism in it, only silence, fragility, and despair. Themes of anxiety, illness, and existential fear run through his work, including his most famous painting, The Scream. Munch described his art as an attempt to understand life and suffering. He became a pioneer of expressionism. Despite nervous breakdowns and hospitalization in 1908, he continued working and lived a long life, leaving behind an enormous artistic legacy. If you found this deep dive into disturbing masterpieces interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit like. You can also support the channel through sponsorship if you'd like to help us keep creating this content. And if you want to explore more about art, artists, and collecting, visit our website at alabrio.co.